And welcome back. Well, a recent New York Times article said college students are more stressed out and anxious than ever before. But it's not just older kids. Even very young children now show signs of stress. So why are kids so anxious, and how can parents help?
Dr. John Duffy is a clinical psychologist and national speaker on relationships, parenting, teens, and families. He also wrote this best-selling book. It is called The Available Parent. Today, he is here to help kids who have anxiety. And it's helping not just kids, but you help parents, too, because some of the anxiety comes from us.
Yeah,
right?
An awful lot of the anxiety the kids suffer comes from our fear and our anxiety about whether they're going to be successful, whether it's going to be what we picture, you know, and so we tend to micromanage and clamp down and overschedule and overparent our kids, which exacerbates the problem for our kids. Doesn't make it easier.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask. Is it realistic that a child so young could even have their own anxiety, or is this all stemming from what they're seeing or learning?
I think it starts with us. It starts with parents. I think social media plays a role. You know, like there's this immediacy and this urgency in the teen and tween years, you know, like from 8 or 9 on. But really, the core of the anxiety the kids experience comes from our anxiety, no doubt about it, which is good news for parents because that gives us some agency over it. It means like, okay, we can do something about this, right? If we can calm our own nerves, we can help our kids calm theirs.
So let's break it down a little bit. Why are so many kids anxious today? I mean, it's anything you read, it's more so than ever in our history.
This is true, and it's a absolute reality. Academic stress is higher than ever. Kids are kind of keenly aware in a way that they didn't used to be that every grade somehow counts toward my future, you know? So academic pressures are real high. That causes anxiety. Social media is immediate and urgent. That causes anxiety. If your kid is an actor or a musician or, you know, an athlete, the spots are fewer and tougher to get to, and so that causes anxiety, all that competition, along with our anxiety. So the kids have all of this anxiety stacked up, and they're not even equipped to handle what they've got to deal with. Yeah.
I mean, I wonder how you feel about the fact, yeah, there are fewer spots. There are, you know, tougher to get roles. Isn't that good in building character to find out that, yes, sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's that character building component, but it's all a matter of degree. The anxiety kids perceive is enormous. The pressure, and there's an element now in this generation of perfectionism because they feel like, boy, in order to get into the schools I want to get into, in order to make the life I want to build, I need to be all but perfect, and that causes undue anxiety as well.
So I want to know, starting with parents, what we can do to reduce the anxiety a little bit, because you only have a really short window when kids are home. And one of the things I think we can stop doing, because this is something that I find adds to my anxiety, is when parents will be like, oh, so what did so-and-so do on their ACT? Or what colleges are you looking at? And you feel like you have to have them, you know, at this level.
Right. Yeah, the comparisons don't help a whole lot, right? Yeah. What parents can do, sometimes we feel like we've got to be the cavalry. If our child is having a problem, we need to fix it. Kids want to be heard. They want to have a parent who is listening to them, and they can solve the problem on their own. Kids are really smart and resilient and capable, but if they don't have an ear, then they're really struggling. So you, as a parent, want to be that ear for them, and you want to, when they're struggling in the future, you want to be the person they come to, you know?
And not rush in and solve it.
Not rush in and solve it. No, kids are capable of solving the problems, and if you don't give them the birth to do that, the space, then they never know whether they are competent or resilient or capable or anything. They just know you are. They know that you're capable of doing for them. But they need to know that they're capable of doing for themselves. It's critical. It's one of the most important things we can do as parents.
What do you look for when you're trying to sense anxiety? Are there certain signs or noticeable symptoms, I guess, of the anxiety that they could be having that is dangerous?
Yeah. As parents, early on, start looking for signs of withdrawal. My kid's up in my room more than she usually is, or she's not with her friends as much as she usually is, or she's irritable, or you know, short-tempered with us. Any dramatic shift in mood or behavior, and your kid might be anxious. And if you're unsure, ask your child. It's a really uncomfortable feeling, so they're going to want to do away with it once they recognize what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think about kids, you know, a certain amount of stress in life is probably expected, even a certain amount of anxiety. But how do you know when it crosses the line and they maybe need to talk to somebody like you?
Right. So some anxiety is good, right? But when it interferes with their life, if it's just too much and they're overstressed, you're going to see some of the symptoms that we talked about a moment ago. And if your child asks to talk to a therapist, which kids do now, make sure you bring them to see one. You know, sometimes parents will justify, oh, this is a phase, it'll pass. But if a kid's asking to talk to somebody like me, there's a reason.
And what are they telling you in your office? What do you hear that maybe would surprise parents? I mean, tell me something that kids are saying that would really help us as parents to understand what they're really thinking.
Yeah, you guys would be shocked at how open kids are in my office. And about themselves, they'll say how much they dislike themselves. So there's an awful lot of self-loathing in this generation. Right? It's heartbreaking, and there's no justification for it, but it's a deep belief regardless, and parents need to know that. About their parents, kids are saying they're not listening like I'd like them to, so they hold back. They withdraw what they say from their parents, you know? And it's real easy for parents to fall into the enemy camp where everything they do is counterproductive. So you want to make sure you're on the friendly side of the camps with your kids.
Okay, I think we should break that down, but you're going to stick around and go through that. So how you can not be an enemy, how you can be on the friendly side. Stick around after the break because you're going to know when it's time to really see a professional and how to be on the right side of your kids' anxiety. We'll be back.
And we're back with clinical psychologist Dr. John Duffy to talk about kids and anxiety. We're bending his ears so much during the commercial break.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I got to take a little break here. Okay, so we talked a little bit about we wanted to get to being on the friendly side.
Yes.
But parents are also told not to be their, versus the enemy, told not to be their child's friend. So how can you be friendly but not their friend and still keeping an eye on discipline?
It's a matter of balance. So structure and discipline and boundaries are critical in parenting. But too many parents spend the lion's share of their time lecturing about this. So when they get their kid's ear, that's all they talk about. You've got to spend a lot of time talking about other things and understanding their world and helping them understand themselves and balance that out. Because otherwise, you're just a disciplinarian, and you're like Charlie Brown's mom. You're not making any sense. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, exactly.
So is the difference between being their friend and being friendly just a level of kindness in the way you speak?
Absolutely. That's a big part of it, is you don't want to be adversarial. And too many parents, when their kids become or broach adolescence, they decide they're going to clamp down and they have to lecture because the stakes are so high.
Yeah.
But it's a misnomer, and it doesn't help. It doesn't get you further things along. The connection is more important, and when there's a lack of a connection, your kid feels this sense of crisis that they can't always articulate, but they feel like they're alone. And you'd rather your kid feel like they have an ally in you.
Yeah.
What about really young kids? And I know you tend to see kids who are a little bit older, but I've heard it diagnosed as young as 3.
Yeah.
And kids at 7 and 8 are having anxiety and not able to leave the house, or vomiting, or worrisome thoughts, not able to sleep, things like that.
Yeah, so more and more young kids are experiencing anxiety, and that's really on us parents. This is something that we can do something about, because they feel some degree of a lack of safety and comfort and a demand to be great or perfect or something like that. And we need to remove that demand and just let them play and discover and be kids. But the idea that they have to start working toward their future early on, parents aren't necessarily consciously aware that that's what they're pressing, but we are. We're pressing that from 2, 3, 4 years old. We're thinking, how do I get this kid to Princeton?
Who they're going to be. Yeah.
Right,
are they going to be? Are they going to get a scholarship here? What kind of athlete will they be? What kind of musician or whatnot? What's the difference? Because I think there's natural phases with kids in terms of their competitiveness and things like that. What's the difference between being disappointed, having a competitive child who just hates to lose, and someone who has anxiety? Because in any of those 3 phases, I remember just growing up with kids, and some of what I see in kids now, of if they really want to win or they really want to be the best, they'll sometimes lie or cheat to kind of get that way.
Right.
What areas do those fall in? How do you figure out the categories that are beneficial and positive and normal and not?
It comes down to authenticity, right? If your kid feels comfortable being authentically him or herself, instead of trying to be something he or she is not, the perfect student or the perfect athlete or the perfect actor or whatever, but to really give your kids space to discover, who am I? And it might be different than what I think the right thing to be is, you know what I mean? And if kids can have the space to figure that out without us parents kind of trying to micromanage that process, they'll find their way. You know what I mean? They'll find their way without undue anxiety. There'll be some, and that's okay. A little stress and a little anxiety propels us to do better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just have a little less than a minute left. The bottom line, because you brought this topic to me, we talked about a lot of different things we could talk about, and you said, I think we should talk about kids and anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because it's the thing I'm seeing most in my office is that kids more and more and more are anxious, and we parents can play a really powerful role in mitigating that. If we're open and available with our kids, and we can put our fear, our judgment, and our egos on the back burner, spend a lot of time connecting with them and helping them discover their authentic selves, they are going to be less anxious.
I love that.
I think that's positive for parents too, because oftentimes it's just, well, they need to be on this medication because they can't function this way.
Yeah.
But really, it comes down to the behaviors, the way you're interacting, and there's many things you can do without medication.
Absolutely, without that medication dance and that therapy dance perpetually through their lives.
Yeah.
You have betterparentnow.com. It's a website people can go to for some tutorials. And I saw on there today, you also have how to recognize how and when to be unavailable as a parent.
Ooh.
And I have not seen that one, and I want to go
You're gonna come back for
and
that.
take a look at that. So I want to know when we should be unavailable too, because you make a great point about being available as parents and connecting with our kids. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah.
Thank
Great
you
to be
so
here,
much.
guys.
Appreciate it.